What's really going on when you watch porn? I know you think it's a harmless habit that you have that allows you to de stress and unwind from a stressful day, and that it's simple and it's not harming anybody because it doesn't involve anybody else. But what if I told you that there are significant dangers hiding in your porn habit? We're going to break down three fundamental things that are flying below the radar in your porn habit, whether you know it or not. And then in the last section of this video, we're going to visit your brain hack strategy for the day. What would your life look like, especially in regard to these three things, if you didn't watch porn? What would your porn free life look like? Let's explore that. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. I help millions of men leave porn behind so they can find their true authentic self and live the life that they've always wanted. In this video, let's start breaking down those three things that are happening well below the radar in your porn habit. Number one is that watching porn changes your perspective, whether you know it or not. So, follow me on this. Real sex is very different than porn sex. And if you expose yourself to it frequently, consistently, and especially with any level of intensity in terms of the acts or genres, you forget that it is not reality. It's actually unreality or fantasy, and much of it is dark. So you go into this dark fantasy seemingly for pleasure. And what's happening is you begin to lose sight of reality. And there really is a neurological basis to this, which we will explore in our second section. But for right now, what it does is it changes your perspective when you look at other people and the way that you view sexuality in your life. So, the first piece of this is your perspective towards other people becomes objectified. And we know this from science that there's also an element of dehumanization. Yes, dehumanization is you no longer see that person as a human who you are connecting with. Now, remember, when it comes to porn consumption, this is all happening on your computer or your phone. But in fact, those are other people that you are consuming. So you're taking those people in and you're watching them in various acts that don't exist in a healthy sex life, and you begin to lose touch of reality. You also begin to see other people out in the world as objects for your pleasure because you set yourself up in that situation very often. So now you're at the mall and you can't stop checking people out because they've become objects for your pleasure. So, this can really impact your view of reality. I work with clients that can't go to the grocery store because every woman they see in the grocery store reminds them of sexually violent acts that they watch a lot, and they begin to imagine it or fantasize about it when they're in the grocery store. This becomes blurred lines of unreality and reality, especially when fantasy pops into your mind all the time. You know that this fantasy is now kind of edging its way, inching its way into your brain. So we know this from science. Objectification and dehumanization becomes a perspective change in your life. Now, why does this perspective change happen? It's because of number two. Number two is that brain function changes. So, brain regulation, brain function is called neurological regulation. When your brain function changes, it's called neurological dysregulation or dysfunction. So there is an identified healthy brain performance pattern. Porn changes that. It makes it so that now this healthy pattern isn't being used anymore. Now your brain is in what I call strained brain. It's in hyper arousal. It's overly stimulated, which also leads it to be in hypoarousal sometimes. It's exhausted. So you're kind of always going back and forth between stimulation and recovering. You're desensitizing your brain. The receptors in the midbrain, the reward center, are becoming desensitized. And you know what that means is you need even more stimulation to feel good. Now, what's also at play in this dysregulated brain pattern is that it's leading you toward addiction. Now, I don't love the word addiction because what I find is many people don't relate to it. So you have a porn habit, and your porn habit might be something that you need to do, that if you tried to give it up, that you wouldn't be able to because you would feel terrible. You would have withdrawal symptoms. What would that look like? It might look like anhedonia, where you don't feel anything. It might look like not being able to function well, because we know that this dysregulated pattern in your brain, what it does is it causes more anxiety, it causes depression, anger, irritability, and other mental health challenges. At the same time, it causes physical health challenges like sexual arousal dysfunction. ED and delayed ejaculation are the two primary physical aspects of a porn habit showing up in your life. We also know that relationships become strained because of strained brain, or they can end up in heated breakups or divorce. There's a significant increase in breakups when porn is in the mix, because going back to number one of objectification and dehumanization becomes a perspective, but also your brain changes and it gives you these mental and physical health issues that then make it more difficult to be in a healthy relationship. We know that brain dysfunction equals emotional dysregulation too. So now we know that a porn habit moves towards a compulsion, which means you have urges and cravings to do it, which leads you towards addiction, which means that you can't really function well without it. So, number two is porn causes neurological dysregulation or dysfunction that gives you mental and physical health issues, namely anxiety, depression, anger, irritability, and sexual arousal dysfunction, which puts a significant strain on your relationship. And then this leads to number three, is that now, because of this porn habit and the changes in your brain and the mental health issues you're struggling with, the physical health issues, sexual arousal dysfunction, which lead to a strain in your relationship, now it leads to isolation and disengagement from life. It can lead to an egotistical, narcissistic viewpoint, going back to that objectification, but that can make it difficult for you to engage socially. So we know that as a porn habit moves towards compulsion and addiction, there's more isolation and there's lack of engagement in your life and there's increased social anxiety. So if you struggle with these aspects, number one, you go out into the world and you're lusting after people, checking them out, or fantasy about porn is popping into your mind, or when you try to go be with your partner, you think about the porn scenes that you've seen and you want to do them with your partner, or if that hijacker of porn gives you brilliant ideas to act out sexually in a different way in the world. And of course, I'm being facetious about brilliant. What that means is it's an escalation behavior that now you're going to seek somebody out who will do these things with you. Or maybe you're going to cross a moral boundary in terms of the type of porn that you are consuming. You're going to ramp up that intensity level because of escalation. That's because of the desensitization in your brain. Perhaps you struggle with erectile dysfunction or delayed ejaculation. Porn's impacting your brain. It's giving you those physical health issues, whether you connect the dots or not. And if you have a strain in your relationship and porn's in the mix, it's definitely contributing. So, what do you do about it? What you do about it is you envision your life. How would it look if you didn't have that porn habit? What would be different? It would honestly be probably a 180% difference. And let me explain to you what happens with the clients that I work with. They have this view of the world. They can't stop checking people out. They struggle with mental and physical health issues. They have relationship problems. They're disengaging. They're isolating more. They are accidentally being more narcissistic, thinking that everything should revolve around them and get their needs met. And then what happens is They enter into recovery from porn. Whether you call it an addiction or not, you decide you're not going to watch porn anymore. And as long as you're using the proper techniques and strategies and you're successfully moving through a recovery journey that we will discuss in just a second, what happens is the perspective changes. Now it's one of unity and connection with other people. You don't just see people as bodies, you see them as a way for you to become your best self through the connection that you have with them, especially your primary relationships, like your partner, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your people, your friends. You connect with them again on a deeper level. You can share yourself. You can be vulnerable again. You're not just isolating and regulating your mood from the stress of the day. You might have thought porn was about sex. It's not, it's about mood regulation. So now you don't need it to regulate your mood because ultimately it's causing your mood dysregulation. Neurological dysregulation equals emotional dysregulation, which is dysregulation. Now you can go through your day and you can be on purpose in your work. You can start doing those hobbies that you enjoyed back when you were a kid. You might not even remember what those hobbies are. I talk to so many people and I say, "What do you like to do for fun?" And people say, "I have no idea. I don't do anything for fun. All they do is work and watch porn. Work and watch porn. Work, live life, take care of kids, placate a spouse, watch porn." But when that watching porn part isn't there anymore, now it's work that you love, hanging out with friends that you enjoy, laughing. It's about remembering what your hobbies are that you like to do and going to do it. Playing guitar, playing tennis or pickleball, playing hockey, doing a puzzle, shuffleboard. There's so many options for you. Boxing, like I love to do, as you know. You can round out your life in terms of work productivity and relaxing and enjoying yourself because you're no longer taking off the edge. And you know why? Because there no longer is an edge. That can be yours in a life that doesn't include porn. I've seen it happen thousands and thousands of times. So, how do you get there? You need the proper tools, techniques, and strategies. It's imperative that you unwire your brain from the high dopamine levels that are involved in a porn habit. So, what that means is it's time to get dopamine from your life. Then, at the same time, it's imperative that you rewire your brain back towards that healthy, optimal brain performance pattern that perhaps you've never used before in your life. And then, when you establish your life with work you love, relationships that feed your soul, and hobbies that make you feel good, you're able to hardwire in that performance pattern so you can rock out your best life for the rest of your life. So, let's talk about what does that life look like? This is your brain hack strategy for the day. Get out your journal, get out your pen, write it down. What would your life look like without porn? What would it involve? Where would all those holes that you're now consuming porn, what would you be doing instead? Perhaps you'd be getting great night's sleep, so you feel wonderful the next day instead of drained. Perhaps you would be out with friends instead of in your man cave. Write it down and write down what your ideal day and your ideal week would look like. It's such a powerful exercise. And then look at the gap of where you are. Now, especially if you struggle with anxiety and depression, you can feel so much better. If you struggle with delayed ejaculation or erectile dysfunction or other sexual arousal dysfunctions, you can perform and experience sex in a new way better than ever before. I know you don't believe me. Nobody believes me until they unwire and rewire their brain. And you can have a healthy sex life. Remember, what you see in porn is fantasy. It's not going to be like that. And it shouldn't be because that's what's desensitizing your brain. Instead, it should be rounded out for enjoyment of the experience. So write it down. What would your life look like without porn? And then go get it. Okay, I hope this helps you out. If you're looking for help on the journey, please go over to drtrishleigh.com. I have different services and programs in different shapes and sizes. If you want more information, follow this video over to the blog post so you can read about it and see some visuals that go along. And until next time, control your brain or it'll control you.